Hey, Alana Heim of Prosperity Alignment. I want to talk to you about my trip to the Netherlands. I got to meet up with my mentor, Christoph Melchizedek, and all of the students that are in the Neo-Shamanic Society. And we got to finally meet up in person in the Netherlands. Well, here's the thing. I knew within myself, within my emotional wave, I had to be there. So I booked the trip. Everything was like how it was supposed to be. And I knew I was going to show up and get what exactly I needed. So the morning I was to fly out, there was a huge snowstorm. And my family, we don't have a four-wheel drive vehicle right now. So I had to call my friend and ask her to come pick me up, which she did. Got to the airport, and it was like every little thing that could go not the way you really want it to go, that's how it happened. So even having to get my boarding pass, it took a while. And then they told me I had to check my bag. So I did. But I knew I didn't want to check my bag. I never wanted to. Going through security was pretty easy. Got a brand new military ID and used it. And it just wouldn't work. So I knew I had my passport because I was flying internationally. So there was a part of me that approached things differently, knowing, okay, this isn't crazy. I have a passport, but I asked the questions I would normally not do. Normally I would go into freak out mode of like, oh no, what if I didn't have an ID and what if it didn't work? So I asked, what would happen should I use this ID in the future and don't have another ID? And she said that there were some other things that they could do. My bag got searched, right? So getting to the plane, it was just like every little thing, right? Nothing substantial, nothing big. Waited there for hours for my flight, and there were delays because of that storm. So in the end, what started to happen was like me having this sense that something's going on. I don't know if my flight's gonna come. Like, I'm trying to leave Reno to get to LA to meet a friend and then go direct to the Netherlands. We were going to be staying overnight for a day, have a day in Amsterdam. We'd have plenty of time to be able to shuttle to the retreat. So what happened? My flight arrived, circled a couple times. The weather was not good. They couldn't see, and they went back to LA. And the moment we knew that happened, the flight got delayed to a time when I would not be able to get to LA and make my flight. So I immediately went to the front desk, talked to the lady, and she said, oh yeah, you're gonna have to talk to the specialist and get this sorted. Great, what does that mean? And she said, you're gonna have to call this number. And she kind of looked at some stuff and said, here's some options. You could probably catch the flight to LA and catch the flight tomorrow. Maybe you can see if they can fly you from LA to somewhere else and catch a flight. And so I'm like, okay, have to make this phone call. This isn't my favorite thing to do. And what really transpired was me staying fully present, knowing I am going to get to the Netherlands. And I became my own advocate for myself. So when I called the specialist and said, my flight is not going to make it, I'm going to miss my flight in LA, I need to reschedule. She didn't even have systems that knew this yet, right? So there were already these structural things that we see. The system at the counter was not the same system that the lady on the phone was looking at. So it took a while before she would really do much. She said, you'll just have to get on the flight tomorrow. And I said, that will not work, because I knew if I'm flying a day later, I will actually arrive later than catching the shuttle and being able to get to my retreat on time. So I said, that is not going to work. We have to find a different route. Whether I still stay in Reno tonight and catch a flight to LA, and then you get me from LA to the Netherlands a different route. And she said, yeah, I don't know if we can do that. I'm like, there's a way, we have to figure it out, right? So really knowing in my heart, there's a way, we're gonna get there. Her not seeing any possibilities, me staying in the space of yes, there are possibilities everywhere, and being that advocate for myself. Again, this is new for me. I don't always do this. Usually I was the defeated type. I'd be like, oh, I guess you're right. I guess this is the only way. And instead of me getting upset emotionally, which I would do, and feel like I know there's something else that should be happening, but I don't know how to speak up, I was in a great space. I just knew I've got to figure it out. So I said, the lady said that at the counter told me that maybe I could fly from LA and do this. And she said, oh, I don't think that's going to work. And then I said, well, I don't have to fly to LA. I am in Reno. I can fly from Reno. Is there a different route you can take me? So she said, I'm not sure, but let me put you on hold. Great. I'm on hold for a half an hour waiting. And at the moment she comes back, she says, I have a new route for you where you're going to leave Reno tomorrow morning. And I said, great. Because I'd also expressed that I needed to be there by like 8 a.m. the following day, right? I'd leave a day later, but I'd need to be there by a certain time. So I got rerouted. I was going to be having like 3 legs the following day, but that meant I was still in my hometown. And so the lady had also told me, if you get rescheduled, come back, let me know so we can pull your bag. So I go back to the counter, and at this point, the lady has no more patience. She's overwhelmed because of all the people she's spoken to about cancellations and everything. I ask if she can help me with my bag, and she announces that they are done. They're over their shift, and they have to leave, and you'll have to wait for the next shift. And at that moment, I felt the defeat come in, right? Like I just want to go home, but now because my bag got checked, I can't leave. Or I don't know what to do, but I know my bag's not even on a plane because there is no plane. So this woman sees me, and she's wearing an orange vest, and she's not somebody who works at the counter, but works, for the airline. And so she comes over and asks, is there something I can help you with? And my heart just, I could feel like my emotions almost welling up. And I was like, I was told I could get my bag pulled because my flight is canceled. Like, I'm going to miss it. It got rescheduled. I'm not even flying out today. And so she asked for my baggage tag and said, I will pull it for you. Meanwhile, the other lady was like in the background saying, you don't need to help her. But she was coming from the heart. And I was so gracious and told her how much I appreciated her because I knew she didn't have to do that. So I was able to go downstairs and get my bag and have my friend come back and pick me up. So I got to spend another day, the rest of the day. It was probably like I spent like 5 hours at the airport, I think. But I got to come home. And I learned from all of that experience, right? I learned from all the things that didn't work. So I knew that tomorrow, the following day, bright and early, much earlier, and I am not an early bird projector, I needed to have certain things in order and know what to do. So I knew I am not checking my bag. So I changed my bag. I packed even like more substantially in a duffel that I knew I could carry on, and they would not, because sometimes with rollers, they'll just see it and say that you need to check it. So I changed my bag. I knew what caused my bag to be looked through, right? The security, going through security, I knew why my bag got pulled. So I separated that. And I also knew I'm not going to show my military ID. I'll just show my passport, right? So I already had all of these things ready to go so that everything went super smooth. Everything was perfect, right? Showed up, got on the plane. Now, because we had had a huge storm the day before, it was super icy this morning. And we sat on the runway for almost an hour. And it was at that moment I realized, okay, I have all these connections now. Like, I have to get to the Netherlands. And I could feel myself wanting to be pulled into fear and pulled into all these places I don't want to be. We are all in a place where we can manifest what we want. And so what did I want? I wanted my plane to be able to leave and be on time, right? Very much focusing specifically on what I wanted. And I realized in that moment, I run energy. And this is where I tend to want to be just in observation mode, right? I want to be the passenger and just enjoy and not have to do anything. But in that moment, I realized, I've got to run the energy. I've got to help this plane get off the ground. And so in that moment, I focused on sending the energy. right? Warmth and heat and light to help de-ice the plane and get everything ready to go so we could leave. And we left 5 minutes later. Everything was on time. I didn't have to check my bag, which was beautiful because I also knew that the travelers who went before me, they had to wait for almost an hour to get their luggage, right? So I landed in Amsterdam. We actually landed earlier. I walked straight off the plane, had everything I needed, was able to go to customs. The line that was 40 minutes the day before was 0 because nobody was there. I was the only one walking through customs. So it was super easy. I was able to jump on a train and go meet my party, get to the hotel I'd paid for that I didn't get to stay at, but I got to enjoy the breakfast that I had already paid for. And I caught the shuttle with everybody else. So it was like, I wasn't meant to go that first day, right? And there were things that I needed to learn so that I could have the experience I was meant to have the second day. So I tell this story because there are so many times in our life where we are expecting things to go a certain way, and when it doesn't, we break down. I know, I get emotional and think, oh no, all the bad, right? We think of all of the negative, we think of the fear, we think of all of the things that we really don't want. And of course this happens and all of these pieces. But I got to step up and advocate for myself. I got to break some of my patterns and really stand up and show up for myself, to honor myself and know what needed to be done, and not just let somebody tell me that it's impossible, right? I was so in the space of everything is possible. I know what I want. We're going to make it happen. And it did. It didn't go the way it was originally planned, but I was able to still go back home. I didn't have to stay in a hotel. I didn't have to spend any money, or there weren't any charges, or there weren't any other delays or any issues, right? I did pay for a hotel, but my friend stayed in it. So it still worked out, right? These are the blessings that are around us in every situation and experience that we have. And oftentimes we don't look for the blessings. We focus on what we deem as being in our way, and the limitations and the shortcomings. And of course, this didn't happen, and this didn't work out for me. It never does, and blah, 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 right? Notice your language and what you tell yourself. And then you have the power to change it. You have the ability to trust within your heart and know that good always comes for you when you're in that space. Everything will align when you trust your authority and make the decision. And I knew I had the invitation. I knew I was supposed to be there. I was meant to be there, and I got there. Now, if I would have got caught up in, oh no, I can't get there, and maybe I just shouldn't go at all, right? Because we go through that sometimes. But there was something in me that I listened to and I honored, and I got there. And it was the best week. And I'll tell you more about that in another video, because I'm pretty certain I've already rambled long enough. So I hope that this is supportive for you to know that even when the world is changing and it's getting crazy and there's all these things that can get in our way, sometimes they're exactly what we need to learn from, to grow from, and then to step up and change old patterns from within. I love you. Bye.